Okay, let's get started. Natali Davis, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to be interviewed. As you know, I'm thinking that this is a unique event in history, and it is important that we create an archive of lived experiences, and a little bit of a reflection. Hopefully, in the future, we can come back to this and just revisit what we learn and how we live through these really interesting times, right? So, would you mind starting by telling us who you are, where did you study, what do you do, how do you make a living? So, anything that you want to share.
So my name is Natali Davis. I'm a student at CSU MB, studying social and behavioral sciences with a concentration in anthropology and archaeology. And so, yeah, it's been interesting, the transition from physical classes to online classes, especially for some of the labs. I know that's been an interesting element, especially for the professors.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate their diligence because I know that it's been hard for them. So it's definitely been interesting. As far as work, I think I'm in a fortunate position because I'm on workers' comp right now. And so that's what the doctor's appointment this morning was for, just to be following up with that. So some of my treatments have been postponed, but right now I'm still getting a small stipend. So I'm still being able to make a living. And my partner, he is being able to work remotely. Thank goodness.
Nice.
Yeah, so and he's the main financial supporter right now. So luckily we haven't been financially impacted, but my parents have been. My mom works in the legal department, and my dad's a contractor, and so most of his jobs have been canceled. And my mom, she's not sure when she's going to be back to work. And then my sister, she works for Walmart, so that's been really interesting. She thinks she might have gotten COVID virus, but she can't get tested. And so it's just been really interesting. I personally I feel like I'm in a much better situation than the people around me.
Your sister lives with your parents, or she lives on her own?
She lives about a half hour away from my parents.
Oh, I see.
With her partner.
Yeah, because the distance that we have to place, sometimes it means distance with the closest of our relatives, and it makes it really difficult. So you've been working and studying at the same time, right?
Right now I'm just studying.
All right. Yeah. Had you taken online courses before, or how was the transition since? Tell us a little bit about what happened in university since the beginning of the pandemic. When did they close? What did they tell you? What happened?
Yeah, it was interesting because at first it was kind of surreal, and the first few weeks before we closed the university, it was, I guess, the reality of the situation hadn't fully sunken in. And so when they started saying that they're going to close the university, 3 weeks ago, that was interesting. And then they closed the university completely. And then we just got continuous updates, and then we got shelter in place updates. And then it seemed like it was almost, hourly that things were changing. And so, yeah, the transition was interesting. And I think it's been the hardest for students who live on campus who had to move away. And then I think also for professors. For me personally, I think the bummer is that we don't get to have the labs. I think that's a challenge.
Yeah. So what do you do with that? So you just postpone that learning, or how are your instructors handling it?
So one of them, the archaeology class, unfortunately, it's the service learning. And so the service learning had to be canceled for this semester. So our hours that we'd already accrued are just, were beneficial to us, but they're no longer counted. So they had to pretty much do away with most of the lab components for that class. Mm-hmm. So that was a little disappointing, just because I was excited to have that experience.
Yeah.
And so with forensic anthropology lab, that's been interesting too, because I know Dr. Mendoza had already assembled all of the skeletal remains and had gotten all of the calipers for us to do, but now obviously we can't physically measure skeletal remains. Most of the lab components have, they've had to been taken away, unfortunately, because the learning component requires that we're actually, working alongside a lot of times with other individuals or museums, and with a shelter-in-place order, all of those museums have been closed. Universities are pretty much shut down except for need-be basis. So that component was pretty much struck off of the course because it wasn't, there was no way to fulfill it. Yeah, and then for the forensic anthropology class, we were going to be moving into measuring skeletal remains, and that we can't really do because we can't physically have them. And I know Dr. Mendoza had already gotten everything assembled and all the calipers ordered, and so he's been substituting with a lot of different videos and a lot of how-tos, and then been trying to walk us through different things. But it's still, not quite the same. So.
And you, Natalie, you're graduating this by the end of this semester, right?
No, okay. I'm graduating a year from now.
Okay, so hopefully you will get to walk.
Yes, I know. I feel so bad for all of the people who can't. I know I was talking to my parents about that, and it's just devastating for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And families and students work so hard to get to that moment of celebration, and we have to just postpone or just not seeing that happening. All right. Well, so we've gone over some of the strategies that some of the faculty has taken. So for you as a student, what is working and what is not working? How do you feel about the technologies that you're using? Do you feel like it's covering sufficiently? How do you feel about it?
I feel like everyone's doing the best possible, the best they can under the circumstances. I think that there's just things that don't lend themselves well to visual learning, like the labs, where you have to have hand-on components. But I think in the other aspect, having video conferencing really allows you to connect in a way that you wouldn't be able to just through email. So I think that's been beneficial. And I think it's also good to regularly, check in and keep on a schedule with your classes, just to kind of keep up some kind of routine.
Yes.
At least for me mentally, it helps.
Important. So of the things that are happening these days in terms of your experience as a learner, what would you keep and what would you get rid of? So are there things that you would keep that you would say, you know what, maybe I don't need to go to the classroom every week, or maybe I can do these exercises remotely, or you'd rather just go back to our regular ways of doing things? I guess what I'm trying to get at is, do you see an opportunity for change in the things that we're experiencing these days?
That's an interesting question. I do actually think that some benefit comes from Zoom learning and from video learning, especially because I do commute, so I live about 45 miles away. So the drive does get a bit much, and I know there's students who commute further. So I think that is one definite benefit that I could see going into the future, where if you couldn't make it, or if you could substitute a few of those, tuning in to Zoom as opposed to actually being there physically, I think that would be a benefit. But I think as far as the lab components, I don't see any substitute for that. Yeah.
Unless you have one of those printers that can actually print your skeleton right there.
Yeah, the 3D
3D printer.
Yeah. Surprisingly, my partner has one, but it's not at the main scale that you need. Exactly.
It'll be quite costly, I imagine, right? The materials and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for the time, for sharing a few of your reflections. I wish you the very best. I'm really hoping that we will move away from this situation soon. We still have to stay at least for the next couple of weeks. So this will be a semester that is going to end on this note, like remotely as we're doing. But I'm glad also to hear that you still have one more year to go, and that we might be able to come back to a certain normality after these really dramatic times, right?
Yes, yeah, that's one benefit for me personally. Not for the people graduating. Thank you.
All right, take good care.
You too.